Leading our bulletin this half hour, Enyobeni Tavern owner Ndevu is expected in court today. A toxicology report has revealed the 21 teenagers suffocated to death on the 26th of June. But parents are not completely satisfied with that explanation. Ndevu faces charges of selling or supplying alcohol to children under 18 years. eNCA's Aviwe Mtila is following developments and joins us this morning. Good morning, Aviwe. The latest development is that the wife has now also been charged. Talk to us about this.
It's actually a question, Mfundo, that's been at the back of my mind, because the person that was actually served with the compliance notice was Vyokazi Ndevu, the actual license holder and owner of Enyobeni Tavern. Ndevu is the husband, but was assigned as the manager of the place. So it was a bit eyebrow-raising as to why he'd be charged instead of Vyokazi Ndevu. But of course now we do know that Vyokazi Ndevu will be making her first appearance at the Magistrate Court in East London after being charged as well. Just maybe to get answers to some of these questions, I am joined by Dr. Msia from the Eastern Cape Liquor Board. Mdomkulu, thank you for joining us at eNCA, and I remember you were there on the day that the compliance notice was served to Vyokazi Ndevu, the wife, but she wasn't charged initially, but the husband was. Maybe clarify as to why this was initially done and why now all of a sudden she's been charged as well.
Thank you very much. Look, we did indicate on that day as well that the investigation is going to go on. However, we needed to take an immediate action then. And in terms of our legislation, the first person that we had to hold accountable was the manager, because the manager is someone that runs the day-to-day business of the liquor outlet. So that is why immediately we had to charge him. But then after further investigations, we then realized, working with the SAPS, that in terms of the act again, the registrant, who is the owner of the liquor license now, is also liable. Hence, we then continue to say we are laying a charge against her as well.
Okay. Now, we heard, of course, yesterday the cause of death being asphyxiation. That puts you in the spotlight as the liquor board, given that we're told at Enyobeni Tavern, as tiny as it is, there were 300 people inside. There's only one door for people to move in and out. Hence now, of course, the cause of death is this suffocation. How do you give a license as the liquor board to such an establishment?
Look, at this stage, we would not want to comment on the cause of death until the Department of Health makes a clear pronouncement on this. We have responded, remember, earlier on when this incident occurred, that it is also our concern that reportedly there was a huge number of young people, within that liquor outlet. However, that is a matter of investigation by the SAPS now. So we're waiting for the finalization of the investigation so that we can then see what then happens thereafter. So the fact of the number, or the issue of the number of people that were there, for now we don't know how many people were there. However, we know that SAPS is currently undertaking an investigation to determine exactly what would have been the case that actually led to the death of young people at that liquor outlet.
Okay, let's talk outside the investigation and talk about what we know. There's one door at Enyobeni Tavern. How do your regulations work? Do you allow an establishment to have just that minimal ventilation, one entrance in and out? Let's just talk about that.
Yeah, that is not allowed. That is not allowed. Look, when we granted that liquor license, there were two entrances. The license was granted on the basis of the structure that was compliant with our requirements, which include two entrances. And that was the case at the time we granted that liquor license. However, we have found out that that establishment was altered late last year. I think it was around August, September, October, somewhere there. So they upgraded that structure without coming to us to seek permission, without coming to the municipality to get the permission from the municipality. So we're never made aware as the Eastern Cape Liquor Board that the establishment had been altered, the establishment had been upgraded to an extent of now ending up having only one entrance, which is the biggest concern, of course, for us as well. We have interacted with the municipality and found out as well that the municipality was not aware that was never submitted for them to approve the new building plans and all that. So again, that is the gross violation of our Liquor Act, as well as the municipality bylaws, obviously.
And then just maybe lastly, how do you work as a liquor board? Do you not do regular checks on these establishments and these taverns? Given that you say these alterations were made late last year, these deaths happened mid the year, in 26th of June. Don't you go and check up at the various taverns as if to check if they're complying?
No, we do. We do have our liquor inspectors that from time to time visit these liquor outlets. However, I think the biggest challenge that we have always been emphasizing is that we have very few liquor inspectors. So it makes it impossible for them to visit this each liquor outlet on a regular basis. So you find that it takes a bit of time for us to visit a particular liquor outlet. We visit many of those that we have received complaints about. Those are the liquor outlets that we will visit most of the time. But in instances where we have not received complaints, sometimes it takes a bit of time. So we last inspected that liquor outlet. It should have been in 2020 when we last inspected that liquor.
But that's 2 years ago.
Yes.
Don't you take any blame to these deaths as the liquor board, given that you only inspected it in 2020?
Yes, I do want to further explain that. The reason for that, remember, there was an issue of COVID-19 which restricted our operations. That is why we could not go just, after that period. So however, we are aware, because we work very closely with SAPS, we are aware that SAPS, they did inspect that liquor outlet sometime last year. So it's not like it was never inspected. And at the time SAPS went to inspect that liquor outlet, it was still an original plan. It had not yet been altered, as it is the case now. But I do want Aviwe to emphasize the fact that we are very, very stressed in terms of the number of liquor inspectors that we have at the Eastern Cape Liquor Board. We have got currently only 16 liquor inspectors that have to monitor more than 7,500 liquor outlets. So it makes it impossible for us to be at every liquor outlet on regular basis. So it's quite very, very daunting for us as the Liquor Authority.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Msia, from the Eastern Cape Liquor Board, stressing that they only have 16 inspectors for 7,000 plus liquor outlets in the Eastern Cape alone. Of course, you do understand that. He mentions how then the establishment itself, Enyobeni, was altered sometime last year. The last time it was inspected, in fact, was in 2020. Currently, as it stands, it has only one entrance, and we do understand, of course, the cause of death being cited as suffocation because of the overcrowding that was happening there.
A very controversial one, or at least one that has led to great division, even on social media. Many people talking and trying to piece what could have possibly happened insofar as the suffocation is concerned, and then that preliminary report which spoke of methanol. What has been the sentiment, according to your observation, following the release of that toxicology report to the families?
The sentiment, of course, Mfundo, from the family is that they're not happy. They're not convinced, in fact, that it was this asphyxiation that was detailed as the cause of death by the Department of Health. Remember, the Department of Health itself is keeping mum about this issue, but there's been a lot of what would we call it? People aren't happy themselves. If you look in the social media, look at the comments, there are people around us. They don't believe that it was the suffocation. But of course, it needs to be answered, as maybe the owners themselves have to answer. Hence, now we're seeing Vyokas in there for coming in here. The police did say that they will be in communication with the NPA in terms of seeing if there will be further prosecutions for the murders themselves. But as it stands, they're being charged for breaching the Liquor Act, and that's for selling alcohol to underage teenagers.
All right, Aviwe, we'll leave it there for now. That's senior reporter Aviwe Mtila out in the Eastern Cape.